This is the Sony Ericsson Live View, the first smartwatch. Now before you start furiously typing away in the comments to tell me about the Pulsar or the databank or the WatchPad, when I say this is the first smartwatch, I mean in the sense that it is a watch that connects to your phone to display information. This may have also been the first device to actually be called a smartwatch. The definitions here get a little murky. Now, the Sony Ericsson Live View was launched in 2010 with an original retail price of $75, which, if you ask me, was a pretty good deal, except for how much this thing sucks. But we'll get to that a little bit later. With the watch, you would get a back that connects to a standard 22mm watch band, and a belt clip that would allow you to clip the watch onto your lapel, your belt, or your sleeve. Now, even though I just unboxed this Live View, it is not new. This is one of my original Live Views that I purchased around 2011 that I could use with my Xperia Play. This is a phone I'll probably cover in a different video. Since the first time I used one of these, I was very fond of it. And this is one of 3 that I have, and none of them really work anymore. Now, I had this thing plugged in for about an hour before I started recording, and it still doesn't have enough power to be able to turn on. This is my first Live View, the one that originally got me hooked on these, and it's not doing too good anymore. But it does do a good job at demonstrating some of the problems that these had. So, they weren't made particularly well, and they were very unreliable, and the battery life was just absolutely abysmal, as you would imagine you would get from an 80 milliamp hour battery, which is getting pretty scary swelling up in there. Now, this thing wasn't designed too well in general. On the bottom, we have a micro USB port with a rubber plug to make it waterproof-ish, but if we take the back clip off and put it in the watch band, we can see that the pin for the watch strap actually covers the micro USB port. So every time you would want to charge this, which would be every single day, you would have to take it out of the watch band, undo the cover, charge it, put the cover back on, put it back into the watch band, which understandably makes the watch band fit a bit loose over time. Now let's see if I can manage to coax some life into this thing to properly demonstrate it. The display itself is actually a pretty nice OLED display. It's 128 by 128 pixels, which in person is fine on a display this size. It's obviously not a large display. Now, this is the ultimate fate of every Live View I've ever owned. It just keeps constantly boot looping. I think the problem comes down to the fact that it can't charge the battery anymore, and the battery started dying almost immediately. The ones of these that I had in 2014 wouldn't even hold a charge then. So, they're basically all useless now. Now, I really want to demonstrate this thing on video, so I'm going to see if I can get it open and pull the battery out and power it externally to make it actually do something. Alright, that's external power. Now to just kind of put it back together enough so it'll work. Alright, let's fire it up and see this thing in action. Alright, free of the shackles of the annoying battery. Did it just shut off? Why is it shutting off? It has unlimited power now. God, these things suck. Wow, it is just determined to demonstrate how much these things were terrible. My voltage at the battery terminals is 3.7 volts. I'm going to turn that up to 3.8. Let's see how that does. 3.7 should have been enough, though. Okay, now it reads as fully charged. Oh, no. Wow. Well, I've got to say, not being able to keep this thing working with a constant power source connected directly to it, that just makes me think that they're just bad. But I can't fathom why. It's so frustrating. Let me see if I can connect to it in the brief period of time where it's working. Maybe it's just immediately shutting off. I don't know. Alright, making an attempt to connect. Pairing. And gone. Let me turn it back on just in case my phone can continue this. Oh man, I miss these things, but then again I don't. Oh, almost! It was so close! One more try. My phone knows it's a live view now. I'm going to be bad. I'm going to give it just a hair more voltage. Alright, we're at 3.9. Yeah, clearly not a power problem. Oh, that's the first time I've... Hey! It's actually connected! Now will it stay on? No, of course not. But I might be able to get the Live View app running and get it connected. Is it forgetting that it's paired every time it starts up now? That would be a problem. Jeez. Yeah, I don't know. 4.2 volts is about the max I would crank this to, but I don't think that it's clearly not a power problem, so no reason to do that. I was going to try and manually charge this battery, but now that I've got it hooked up to everything, I can see that the battery voltage is just 0. So there's not really going to be much hope of resuscitating that thing. Oh, it's so bad that my first instinct after figuring out this one's bad is to go to eBay and try and find another one. It's just such a bad idea. Oh, but I like them so much. And you know, I gotta say, it's pretty hard to explain why I actually kind of like this little horrible device. That was a pretty standard Live View experience from how I remember this thing, but I still remember it fondly. And this thing has other problems as well that would plague you every day. The Bluetooth reception was terrible, despite this pretty large antenna on there. The interface isn't actually touchscreen, it's touch sensitive at the 4 sides of the display. This is your only menu button. This one is just for power, which is just oh so convenient on a smartwatch to have a giant power button right on the corner. Yeah, turned this off many times unintentionally. But one of the most difficult things to convey about the Live View is that it was actually a good experience when it did work. The Live View had a lot of third-party support, and it was always easy to find new things to try to do with it. And the support went beyond just making more applications for it. Open Live View was an excellent alternative to the standard Live View launcher that allowed it to be a bit more stable when you were using it. And this leads me perhaps into the biggest problem with the Live View. Developers really didn't know how to fully handle this thing. The root cause of almost all the stability problems of it was how you wrote to the display. So applications wouldn't actually run on the Live View. Applications would run on your phone. And what would happen is the phone would develop a screen image to send to the Live View, or allow you to send a partial screen image to overlay on what is already on the display. Now, what that would mean is you would be constantly writing to the device over Bluetooth with image data. Not really well compressed image data, because the display is so small, if you started to compress it, you would immediately notice any artifacts. So while there were more complicated applications you could get for your Live View, like this one that lets you see your camera over the Live View display, they didn't really work that well, and would frequently make the device lose connection. Now, later, towards the end of when the Live View was relevant to me personally, I kind of saw this as a challenge and took it upon myself to develop my own Live View application. So I cloned 2048 for the Live View. It actually worked really well. I designed it so that images were only sent to the display after every move was made in the game, which made it very easy to manage the Bluetooth connection. This was definitely a fun project to make, and I'm glad I did it. It's kind of cool. Now, like almost all the software I write, I did release my source code for my 2048 clone for the Live View, which, interestingly enough, 2048 was a clone of the game 3s, if you didn't know that. And it was kind of fun to develop for a device that was somewhat handicapped like this, in a way. One of the keys to making a program work on the Live View was to build your image all in one go in one function, and then send it after you're done. Constantly updating the display is the Achilles heel of the Live View. But as long as developers respected that and a few other considerations, like don't make something so complicated that the limited interface isn't sufficient, it was a very enjoyable device. Now, a lot of Sony peripherals in this time period would have required a Sony device like my Xperia Play, but the Live View didn't. They kind of had bigger plans and didn't lock it in. It's almost a shame that it failed, because it was so close to being good. I really did enjoy using this thing. Even though I've never been big into social media, I found other awesome applications for it. Emails on it were nice for me. It was great at controlling playback of music stealthily on your wrist. And it just, when it was worked with, within its limits, it was nice. Yes, there were a lot of problems. Like, if I had the watch on my left arm and my phone in my right pocket, I would almost be guaranteed they were going to lose connection. But it was the first one, so it kind of makes sense that there were problems. But ultimately, all of the faults with the Live View made it a complete commercial failure, and this last one I purchased only cost me $20. One thing this device did show me is that I'm really fond of smartwatches, and I've had several since then, and don't plan to stop having them anytime soon. They may not be the most popular device right now, but I definitely like them. As it stands today, it's really hard to find much information about the Live View. The Sony Ericsson website is gone, you can't get the SDK anymore, and there are only 2 other videos I could find that are both by Sony themselves. So it seems like almost everyone else has forgotten about this device. Well, Sony Live View, I remember you, I cherished you, and I won't forget. Well, that's pretty much it for my retrospective of the Live View. I'm kind of curious, has anyone else here used a Sony Live View before? It'd be kind of fun to hear your experiences in the comments below. I hope you guys have enjoyed this look at it from someone who used it during the time period, and who actually wrote software with it and understands its faults. I'll see you next time.